Oh my, does it feel good to be back. Hey y'all, sorry for the hiatus. Getting into the rhythm of having a full-time job while also trying to juggle my booktube channel was just a lot more difficult than I anticipated. It takes a lot more planning and thought going into my videos in order to create good content for you guys. But I think it was a well-deserved break, and I think now we can come back better than ever. But it is time for a June wrap-up. I read 27 books in the month of June. Now, you might think that that's crazy, and it is, but let me preface that by saying most of those are audiobooks. I listen to audiobooks all day while I'm at work, and I listen to them on 2x speed. So that accounts for most of the reading that I did in June. The first book I finished this month was Dating and Dragons by Christy Boyce. This is the second book in a series, which really threw me off because there was zero mention in this book of any of the characters that we met in the first book, which usually, in terms of an interconnected standalone series, you at least see little glimpses of the other characters. This, not at all. So I'm like, can you even really count this as a series? I don't know. So I guess when the author says that this is a series, it's really just about characters playing table games, because that really is the overarching plot, is that these characters play D&D together. I did like the love interest, Logan, in this book more than I did the love interest in the first book. Like, this boy leaves no questioning for his feelings for Quinn, like from the get-go. He makes it quite clear exactly how he feels about her. And it was absolutely adorable. Just know, if you're gonna pick up this book, that it really does embody the YA genre. So if you pick up this book and say it was too YA for me, that's a no for me. I rated that a 3 stars. Then I read Wrath of the Triple Goddess by Rick Riordan. This is the second book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympians, the Senior Year Adventures series. Percy Jackson is trying to get into this college for demigods, and he needs to get 3 letters of recommendations from gods, and they send him on death-defying tasks. It's like they want him to die. These books are so funny. I think as Rick Riordan got more into writing about different kinds of mythology, he just decided to see what unhinged things he could get away with publishing. And this book really embodies that idea. Just some of the most unhinged things I've ever read in a book before. But it's so funny and is so entertaining. It literally had me giggling in my cubicle. My coworkers probably were wondering what was wrong with me. I rated this a 4.5 stars. Falling for Your Best Friend's Twin by Emma St. Clair. This is the first book in the Love Cliches series. Oh, what can I say about this book? Like I said, most of these audiobooks I listened to while I was at work. A normal occurrence for me, as I did with this book. But what's not normal for me is that I was looking through my to-do list, moving things around so that I could do work that would allow me to continue listening to the audiobook. I was enjoying it so much that I didn't want to turn it off. Emma St. Clair has become one of my all-time favorite authors, and this book just really solidified that. The witty banter that she writes in her books just genuinely has me laughing out loud. I loved both characters in this book and how they were both navigating such heavy things while growing in their feelings towards each other. Yeah, loved it. It was a 4 stars. Out of Air by Rachel Reese. This book showed me that fantastical thrillers are really not my vibe. I had read one before, Dark and Shallow Lies, I think is what it was called. And when you mix like magic and fictional creatures with thriller, it just rubs me the wrong way. I don't know what it is about that combination that just irks me to no end. Feel free to make a case for fantastical thrillers in the comments. That's just my own experience, but maybe you've had another one. But this book also gives major Outer Banks vibes, which I never finished because I got bored. So a subgenre that I didn't like and a TV show that I didn't like, this book never stood a chance. Plus, the friendship dynamic in this book was a little weird. Something would happen and someone would say something, and it was one of those situations where it just had me wondering, do these characters even like each other? And they're supposed to be the best of friends, so how does that make sense? Like, it's clearly not supposed to read that way, but it comes off that way. I rated this a 2.25 stars. Picking Daisies on Sundays by Leanna Cincotti. I was so looking forward to reading this book because it was on my list of 26 books to read in 2026, and I was not disappointed. This book was everything good in your favorite iconic rom-com, and the yearning that is so obvious on Levi's part the entire time is to die for. You get to see both Daniela and Levi interact with his family a lot during this book, and it is so adorable. Also, Daniela is a fashion student, which I don't think I've ever read a book that had a character in that occupation, and that was a really fun addition to the story. And then the end of this book was giving major The Summer I Turned Pretty TV series vibes. I rated that a 3.5 stars. Assistant to the Villain and Accomplice to the Villain. This was my second time reading both of these books. The next book comes out on August 4th, I believe, Adversary to the the villain, and so I just kind of wanted to do a little refresh. I've been keeping up with this series as the books have come out, so it's been a while since I've read either of these. Before I get into how much I like the series, I do want to say that the narrator of this audiobook for some reason took me a little bit to get used to. This was not the first time I tried to listen to Assistant to the Villain. The first time I borrowed it from my library, listened to the first minute, and then promptly returned it. I just don't know why I did that. I have now since listened to both of those books, which are by the same narrator, and didn't have an issue. But these are really great audiobooks because you can easily get back into them if you zone out for a little bit, which is in fact a common occurrence on my part. It was just as fun listening to these audiobooks as it was reading the books because the characters just have such fun relationship dynamics amongst themselves and such fleshed out personalities. You can clearly see that each character each exists individually in the author's head with just how much thought she has put into their backstory that fuels how they interact with everyone and with themselves in these books. I rated them both a 4 stars. Perfect Girl by Tracy Banghart. One of my least favorite things to read about in books is anything to do with the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, I lived through it. I like to read for escapism. I don't really want to read about things that remind me of real life, like the COVID-19 pandemic, social media, TikTok slang. I don't want to see it in my books. So it's a testament to how good this book is that by the end of the book, I didn't even care that it was talking constantly about the pandemic. This was the best thriller that I have read in a while. I was literally getting shivers down my spine every 30 seconds. That is not the reaction that I guessed I would have at the beginning of the book. This was genuinely suspenseful, which I feel like is a more difficult emotion to elicit through ink on paper, or in my case, somebody reading the book to me. The book took me by surprise in so many ways, and I'm so glad I picked it up. I rated that a 4.5 stars. The Holiday Honeymoon Switch by Julie McKay. Am I listening to Christmas books in June? Yes. But that's okay. Say what you want about it. I don't care. This book was so incredibly unrealistic, but does that make it any less fun? No. One of the characters goes through something pretty drastic, pretty traumatic at the beginning of this book, and where was the healing? She was nowhere to be found because the time span from the first page of the book to the end of the book is like 7 days. So yeah, there was none of that happening. I will say this is a dual POV book. You're following Holly and Ivy, and I enjoyed Ivy's storyline more than I did Holly's. I rated that a 3 stars. The Arctic Incident by Ewan Colfer. This is the second book in the Artemis Fowl series, and again with the butt flap. If you haven't seen one of the vlogs I put up earlier this year, which was me doing bookish things for the day, which is when I listened to the first book, then you wouldn't know that this is a children's fantasy series with lots of different mythical creatures, one of those being a creature that is very good at tunneling. How do they do that, you might ask? Oh, by eating the dirt and pooping it back out. So this character literally has a butt flap in the seat of his pants for easy access. What? These books are genuinely just such a silly, goofy time. There is literally no seriousness within 100 feet of these books. I will say, for some reason, while listening to these books, I do have a harder time than I normally do picturing all of these mythical creatures. I don't really know why that is. Also, who let this 11-year-old boy have so much power over so many people? Like, who thought that was a good idea? Because it's not. I rated that a 3 stars. But He's My One Regret by Anna Conwell. Are you kidding me? Love. I love this series. I love Anna Conwell. This series is so cute. This is the second book in the But He's a Carter Brother series. I loved seeing the female main character interact with his family throughout the book. Anna Conwell writes found family so well. It's something I saw in the More Than a Game series. It's a commonality throughout the books that I've read from her and what I know about her other series, because she writes interconnected standalones about a group of really close friends, about a family. And so found family is just such a commonality throughout all of her books, and she has gotten really good at writing it. I rated that a 4.5 stars. Trouble in Queenstown by Delia Pitts. This book follows probably the dumbest private investigator that I've ever heard of. If I was ever in a situation where I needed to hire a PI and I found out that they approached it the way this character did, I would ask for a refund. Dumb. The twist was so obvious from literally page 1, but it took the main character the whole book to figure figure it out. Also, do mayors actually have that much political and social power? One of the characters in this book is the mayor of the town, and she's like the local mob boss. Like, is that actually a thing? I don't know. I don't even know the name of my own mayor right now, so. That book gets a 2 stars. Falling for Your Boss by Emma St. Clair. This is the second book in the Love Clichés series. This book was my favorite in the whole series. I loved it. Gavin, the mailman character, is just so down bad for Zoe the entire time, and I loved it. Loved it. I love Gavin. He loves Zoe so much. He would literally go to war for her, and I loved it. One of the only books that I actually currently have the physical copy of is Defend the Dawn by Bridget Kemmerer. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I binged the second half of this book in 2 hours and then promptly sent a strongly worded email to Miss Bridget Kemmerer herself, lamenting about how upset I was that I couldn't start reading the next book immediately. I laughed, I cried, I got angry, I got butterflies, all of the emotions. After I finished, the only thing I could do was add every single book Bridget Kemmerer has ever published to my TBR. 5 stars. If Books Could Kill by Kate Eberly. For this book, I got an e-arc from NetGalley. It comes out July 21st, I believe. This book has a similar concept to A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. The female main character wishes to be the protagonist in her favorite romance author's next novel. What she doesn't know is that her favorite author has decided to switch it up and write a thriller. It was a little goofy though. A little goofy in the way that stories like a romance author tries to write a thriller, and what we get is a Hallmark movie version of a murder mystery. So it was a little hokey. A lot hokey. Still a fun time though. I rated that a 3.5 stars. It only took me 3 months, but I finally finished The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. I literally only had 20 pages of this book left and I couldn't bring myself to finish it. I was like, there's too much that needs to happen in these 20 pages. I can't deal with that right now. So I put it off. Finally finished it. Mariana Zapata is the queen of slow burn romances, which is exactly what this is. But Aiden Graves, the giant teddy bear of a man that you are, I could kiss you. He is just the best. The best. I Love Men, written by Mariana Zapata. Where can I find one? Can she make one for me? Besides Aiden, another thing that I really loved about this book was the way that Aiden and Vanessa's demeanors juxtaposed each other really well. Mariana Zapata really leaned into that opposites attract philosophy, and the acts of service and silent declarations of love throughout this book are killer. I rated this 5 stars. Falling for Your Fake Fiance, book 3 in the Love Clichés series by Emma St. Clair. I love Delilah. She is everything. The quintessential Southern belle. She is snarky, sassy, prim and proper, polite. She will hate your guts but bat her eyelashes at you if she thinks that's gonna get her what she wants. The only thing that I will say docks off points from this book is that I don't think we ever really got an explanation for why Théoden acts like such a womanizer, which is strange considering the fact that that is such a big reason on why Théoden and Delilah don't really get along at the beginning of the book. So you think that would warrant some explanation, but I don't recall getting explanation. If it did, it clearly didn't stick in my brain. I rated that a 3.5 stars. The Hidden Oracle by Rick Riordan. This is the first book in the Charles of Apollo series. The amount of sass in this book, if I had a monetary equivalent for how much sass is in this book, I think I'd have $1 billion. This whole series is following Apollo. His dad, Zeus, is mad at him, so he turns him into a mortal and takes away all of his godly powers. So you're following Apollo, who's literally a Greek god. Like, of course he's going to be pompous and arrogant and rude. But his arrogance was done in a way that was funny and comedic, and it didn't make me hate his guts, which I think is a testament to Rick Riordan's talent for storytelling. I gave this a 3.25 stars. Booked for Murder by PJ Nelson. I don't know why, but when I went into this book, I went into it thinking it was a romance. It's not, and the author wastes no time in reminding you that it is, in fact, a murder mystery novel. All of the characters in this book were just silently unhinged, and when they did eventually snap, just made me stop and wonder what on earth is going on. It was so out of character from anything we had learned about them previously in the book. And yes, this book is a murder mystery, but there is also a romance, except it did absolutely nothing for the plot. If you're going to add a romance into the book, make it have a point at least. Now maybe the author did that on purpose and it's gonna play a bigger role in the next book in the series, except I'll never know because I'm not continuing the series. 2.75 stars. The Dollhouse by Fiona Davis. I love the story format that Fiona Davis uses to write her historical fiction. experience. She tells it in a dual timeline, one in the historical fiction setting and one in a more modern day setting that kind of follows a character who's learning more about the character from the other timeline. The twist really took me by surprise and I didn't expect it to play out the way that it did. I rated this a 4 stars. Falling for Your Best Friend, book number 4 in the Love Clichés series by Emma St. Clair. This book was a breath of fresh air. It's not often that I read books with characters that are neurodivergent because oddly enough, there's not a lot of authors that write neurodivergent characters. So it added an extra layer to this story, seeing how the female main character comes to terms with the way that her brain works, the way that her brain sees the world, and how that affects her relationships with her friends, her family, her work, and also the best friend that is mentioned in the title. As much as this is a romance novel, it is just as much about self-discovery and self-acceptance, and I really enjoyed that about this book. It was a beautiful blend of the two storylines. I rated this a 4 stars. The Giver by Lois Lowry. I'm trying to expand my reading palette a little bit, so I decided to read the OG dystopian novel. It was very nice to read it without the threat of classroom assigned reading looming over my head. I actually got to dive into the story and really visualize it. Something I said in my TikTok I made about this book is that as a regular dystopian reader, I can see what the big secret of the book is from the very beginning. Obviously, the main character, Jonas, who's like a 12-year-old boy, doesn't know what the secret is for most of the book. But when you do get to the point where he figures out this big secret that kind of rips open his idea that he'd been living in this utopian society, it is just as emotional as if you are discovering it for the first time. So I really enjoyed Lois Lowry's storytelling in this book. I gave that a 5 stars. Can't Help Faking in Love by Swati Hegde. Yes, another book of two silly little young adults who think that they can get away with fake dating and not catching feelings. But of course they catch feelings. Of course they do. Of course they do. And I enjoyed every minute of it. 3.75 stars. The Heir by Kira Cass. This was not the reading experience I was expecting. I love the original Selection trilogy, okay? In this book, you're following the daughter of American singer and Maxine Shreve. I hated her. She was the worst. Every little thing she did grinded my gears. She looked down her nose at everyone. She thought she was better than literally everyone else on the planet. She viewed her relationships with others through a lens of, what can I get out of this? She pushed away literally everyone in her life, and for what? She has such a cynical outlook on life, and we really don't get any sort of reasoning for why that is. Like, she is now having her own selection, you know, which is how her parents met and fell in love, and they literally love each other more than anything else in the world. Why does she have such a distaste for finding love when her parents are some of the most in love people you ever read about? I don't understand. I find it a little hard to believe that America Singer and Maxine Shreve raised her. The redeeming quality of this book was literally every other character besides her. Loved them, didn't like her. I gave this a 3 stars. Falling for Your Brother's Best Friend. Another book in the Love Clichés series by Emma St. Clair. My favorite thing about this book is that it is a brother's best friend story. And it's very clear that these two characters have known each other for years. And because of that fact, the male main character was very intentional about doing things to show Chelsea, the female main character, that he wanted their relationship to turn into something more. He wanted to have actions out there that backed up his confession when it came time for him to tell her he was in love with her. And I really liked that take on this story. I feel like I haven't really seen that sort of relationship growth, relationship change in other books with this similar trope. I rated that a 4 stars. Falling for Your Enemy, the 5th and final book in the Love Clichés series by Emma St. Clair. The perfect end to a wonderful series. I loved the natural way the characters got to know each other. Well, as natural as it can be when you are forced to go on a 2-week road trip with your arch nemesis, because you know that is just a regular everyday occurrence for normal people like you and me. But I digress. The way that the two characters got to know each other was just so raw and vulnerable in a way that we hadn't seen in the rest of the series. And I really enjoyed getting to see that side of these characters. 4 stars. And the final book that I read this month was The House of My Mother by Sherry Frankie. Now, I was never a fan of 8 Passengers. I never watched their videos. I didn't have any idea on any of the background behind what had happened with them. All All I knew was that they were a family vlogging channel and that the mother was now in jail. And so this was just a very eye-opening, a very heavy experience of reading this story. You know, this is written by the woman who experienced such hardship, such difficulty being raised in that house. And I think that all of the kids that grew up under the control of this woman are incredibly strong. Sherry Franke even went so far as to write out her story, to recount the most difficult things she had ever gone through in her life, knowing that it was going to get a lot of visibility, knowing that there were a lot of people on the internet who were going to read her book and critique it, and she chose to do it anyways. And I listened to the audiobook, which she even narrated, which is wild to me that she was able to do that. She is so much stronger than I could ever hope to be. And I hope that these kids, the kids in this family, get everything that they ever want every day for the rest of their lives, because they deserve it. Now, I don't rate memoirs because it is somebody telling their real life events that have happened in their life, and I'm not going to give it a star rating based on my own personal entertainment. Anyways, those are all of the books that I read in the month of June. A lot. A whole lot. Some days I listened to 2 books. I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, guys, I am so glad to be back in the swing of things and making more content for you guys. So make sure to subscribe and like this video to let me know that you enjoy this type of content. Comment down below your favorite book that you read in the month of June and any books that you think I need to add to my TBR immediately. And subscribe to my channel for more bookish content in the future. I hope you have a lovely rest of your week, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!